Hey guys, welcome to Cult Film and Review, the podcast where we discuss the films you love but no one else gets, and we see if they still hold up. Tonight, it's dog poo, everywhere dog poo. Get ready as we discuss mental illness, because we're popping the Jack in the Box, and we're unleashing everyone's favorite imaginary friend that you wish would just drop dead, Fred. So let's just start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex? Klopex. Klopex.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for another episode. We really appreciate it. First, I just want to ask that you subscribe to the podcast. Also, leave us a review on iTunes. We will give you a shout out at the end of the episode. We got 2 this evening for you. That's right, 2. So thank you to those guys. We really appreciate you guys doing that for us. It really helps us out, and it's just awesome. So thank you very much. Let's just get into this movie a little bit here.
What movie?
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
Right now. Tonight we're reviewing Drop Dead Fred. Came out in 1991. Was directed by Eight DeYoung.
Yeah, is that what you went with?
That's what I'm going to go with.
All right.
Had a budget of $6.5 million. Made $14 million in the box office. It was filmed in the U.S. It has a rating of PG-13.
I don't know if it does. I didn't search too hard for the rating. I just assumed.
And it currently has...
Did you make the whiteboard?
He did. It currently has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you don't know what it's about, a young woman finds her already unstable life rocked by the presence of a rambunctious imaginary friend from her childhood. As always, I am joined by the Cult Film crew of Kyle Smith.
Hey, how's it going?
Chris Willenbrecht.
What's up?
And Michael Salustio.
Hi.
So this is my pick.
It is your pick. Cody, why'd you pick this movie?
So it was between this and another movie, and I went with this one because I thought this was the more offbeat movie. And I thought, well, that'd be a more interesting topic to talk about. It's a little more offbeat, you know.
Yeah.
And
Would you say offbeat for sure?
Would you say it's offbeat?
Yeah, I would say it's offbeat.
Okay.
But is it offbeat?
No, it's not onbeat.
No.
It's definitely offbeat.
Yes.
And I remember it from my childhood and like loving it as a kid, but I haven't seen it since then. So
As so many of these films have been the case.
Yes.
So I wanted to go back and revisit that and see what I thought as an adult of this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people really like this movie
As a child.
out there. Well, hold on. I think a lot of people think they really like this movie.
There you go.
And I agree. And I kind of agree
it was
with
funny.
that
I
statement.
mentioned that I was watching this to my coworker, and she was like ecstatic about it. Then the next day, I was like, "When was the last time you watched that movie?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know." It was like, when it came out or whatever. And I was like, "Huh, okay."
Yeah.
You hold on to that memory. That's
Exactly.
my advice to you.
I hear that there was a movie that a lot of people think they remember with Sinbad in it, where he was a genie.
Oh, no. Oh.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking?
this
You've
is
heard
a
about
real
this,
thing.
right?
Yes,
right.
yeah, this is
I
a
actually
real
think
thing.
it was this movie that they were thinking of.
Why?
What?
Why? Not
No
even
fucking
close.
way.
Really?
Not
Shazam
even
is the one
clo-
that they're thinking of.
It's Kazam.
That's see.
And there's no way. Because I'm pretty sure Sinbad's in this film. He's
No,
in the
he's not.
background somewhere,
You're
right?
Yeah.
insane.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Say it's shared universe, guys.
Yeah.
Shared universe.
Had anyone seen this movie before? Not seen this movie before? Go ahead, all at once, Kyle.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Chris?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
When was the last time you guys saw it before this watching?
Wait, have you?
Yeah.
This is depressing. There's so many great films that we haven't seen, and of course we've all seen fucking Drop Dead Fred.
I do want to talk about that though.
Okay, sorry, Cody. Sorry, step on
My
that.
last time seeing it was probably I'm gonna guess that in 92 or 93 is when it hit the VHS shelves, and that would be when I saw it.
Okay.
Yes. Same, definitely.
So it's been a while for those two.
God, fuck if I
Mike?
know. I don't even remember. It's like one of those movies that's always been in my childhood. So sure, 92, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Well, I can't. No, that wasn't the last time I saw it. That I probably saw it 5 or 6 years
You
ago.
know, have you ever had
Really?
that? You have
Yeah.
that. You know that film that you have in your life where, like, whenever it's on, you're watching it, like, no matter what period, like, whenever it falls
trying
into
to
the film.
picture which film that
Do you
would
have
be.
a film like that? Does anybody have a
Yeah,
film
I
like
do.
that? There's a
Christmas
film like
Vacation.
Christmas Vacation. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's that for you. No matter what time, when you turn it on in the middle of the film, you're watching it all the way
Yep.
through. As a kid, this kind of was like that movie for me for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
This and Career Opportunities with Jennifer Connelly for some reason, but
Not
this
as
movie
popular
also.
as Drop Dead Fred.
I don't know, dude. I don't know, dude.
Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, it's weird. Just starting out and watching this movie, you know, remembering it from my childhood and just being like, oh, I remember this movie being so much fun and like so ridiculous and like all this other stuff. And then watching it with adult eyes and just being like, oh, fuck. Like, oh my God, I'm sad and depressed right now.
It's like when you're watching an American Tale, and then you realize, like, holy shit, this is about Jewish settlers
Yeah.
coming to America. This is not about a fucking
This is,
nice.
this is a dark comedy.
Yeah.
It's listed
Yeah.
as such.
Yeah, but
this
it,
is not a kid's movie.
which
I
is
mean, this
weird because
not-
it was marketed as a kid's movie.
Well, I don't know. Was it?
It was.
I totally- it
According to
totally
our
was.
research department on Wikipedia.
Or did kids just want to see it?
Dude, but the context and the way that they present the film, it definitely has
Yeah.
a kid vibe. It definitely speaks more. This is like the modern day. This is the modern day equivalent of like a Pixar movie. Like Pixar movies are geared towards kids, but if you're an adult watching it, there's actually adult themes that the adults
Right.
can understand.
It's kind of like it
and
reminds
that's kind of what this has.
think
me a little bit of the Peanuts.
I think there's a lot more adult than there is kids. The only thing that's really kid about this movie is the character Fred.
Which he's in the pretty much the entire
Yeah,
film.
I
So.
understand that, but what
Yeah,
I'm saying
I mean,
is
his
it's
name's in the fucking
completely
title.
it's completely surrounded by adult themes. Just
but there's
this
a lot
one-
of kid stuff that like that's wrapped in adult themes. Like I think Adventure Time is wrapped in adult themes. Like
yeah.
if you watch it, you're like, holy shit, this shit's about like some serious shit.
Yeah.
You know, The Peanuts was like that. There was a lot of psychological shit that was going on.
David
during
Bowie's
it.
penis in Labyrinth.
Very, very adult.
Yeah.
Also wrapped in leather, actually,
Yeah.
and just
Spandex.
rawhide.
Yeah. Glitter.
Oh
So
my
I mean,
gosh.
there's a lot of things wrapped.
No,
in
but
kids' movies.
But I
as
mean,
for
that's the
adults.
thing is like, as a kid, all you see is Fred. But when you're an adult, you see the story that surrounds Fred.
True that.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
that,
I
yo.
did see that
That.
story. And you know what? We'll get more into that story when we come right back.
And the prince took the beautiful young girl in his arms and said, "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered. "I will be your princess."
Did they live happily ever after?
Of course, Elizabeth.
How do you know?
Because she was a good little girl. If she had been naughty, the prince would have run away.
What a pile of shit.
You were saying earlier, you definitely see it differently with adult eyes. Phoebe Cates is the main character in this. She plays Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And
What else is she from?
She is from Fast Times at Ridgemont High
Mm-hmm.
and
yeah.
Gremlins,
Yep.
most
Oh, yeah,
probably
okay,
the most
okay,
famous.
okay.
And she did her last film. Well, not her last film because she's kind of gotten back into acting. But she did a film called Princess Caribou. That was like her last film for a while. And then she had kids with Kevin Kline.
Oh, lucky
and then she
him.
wanted to be a mom. Yeah, no. They're like the cutest couple with the cutest names. I feel like that's how they met. They were just like, "What's your name, Kevin Kline? What's your name, Phoebe Cates? Oh my God, we're gonna be so adorable.
Too perfect.
Can we just do this?"
and I mean, when the film opens, you kind of realize that Elizabeth is going through some troubled times.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband is obviously
An asshole.
an asshole and leaving her.
Yep.
Kind of.
Kind of leaving
Never
her.
quite leaving.
Never quite.
Just screwing other people.
Yeah, always holding on.
Yeah.
You know,
Her car gets stolen.
her purse gets.
He's like-
that. That was actually pretty.
He
funny.
is like the epitome of like the shittiest salesman of the world.
Charles.
Yeah.
Charles.
He's like
He's
the
like a-
way he talks and the way he yeah, he's like pulling all the moves, the sales
Isn't he
moves.
like? Isn't that his like?
Yeah.
Like he's a character actor who kind of plays that character a lot, right?
I feel like I've seen him in that kind of role.
Yeah.
More than
I don't
once.
recognize him at all.
Really? Yeah, I never
Tim
remember.
Matheson.
Yeah.
Tim
Tim
Matheson.
Matheson.
Tim
He's always
Matheson.
the slimy luxury car dealer.
Yeah.
Oh, who are we gonna get for this role? We'll call up Tim. He's not doing anything.
And she dresses like the mom from Home Improvement.
Yeah.
She sure does.
She definitely does. Has that
Sure
90s
Man,
like
those ankle dresses are really
Yeah.
that really
with
bummed
the,
me
with the
out.
ankle socks.
Yeah.
and the loafers.
It's like the least amount of skin you could possibly show. It's like Amish. kind of.
But it opens with that, and then she ends up getting left ish
Mhm.
because he doesn't really leave.
Yeah. He's a what's the word? Controlling?
Manipulative.
Manipulative. Very much a better word. Thank you.
Cool.
I couldn't think of the word for better.
And then she basically moves in with her lovely mother.
Her lovely,
Mrs.
Controlling
Polly.
manipulative
Polly,
mother.
Polly Cronin.
There's a theme here.
Polly Cronin. Yep. No, that's not her name.
What is it?
It's Marcia.
That's not her real name.
No.
I mean, that is her
Yeah,
real
that's
name.
her real name.
I'm talking
Wait,
about characters.
whose name is who?
talking
Yeah.
about character names.
Oh,
Very
sorry.
confused
See,
now.
he got me confused.
Yeah, I don't know who we talk. What movie
Same
is this?
person, two different names.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She reminds. Is that the lady from Hellraiser?
No.
It
Are
reminds me
you
of the-
sure?
it
It looks
reminds-
just
what?
like her.
I see that though.
Yeah, it
Yeah?
I
looks-
see it.
yeah.
It's not, but I see it.
Do you
Look
see
that
it?
up.
Yeah.
I don't think it is though.
And you're introduced to her lovely
Claire
mother.
Higgins is in Hellraiser.
Okay.
Hmm.
This is not Claire Higgins.
Good old Claire Higgins.
Claire Higgins.
You're introduced to her lovely mother, who is obviously a caring, nurturing woman.
Yes.
Mhm.
Wants the
And-
best.
Yeah, just wants
Doesn't
the
want
best
anybody
for
on her
daughter.
carpet.
No, can't step on her carpet.
She's a bitch. She's the bitchiest mom in the whole world.
She is, and you know what? I don't feel like it was ever explained why she was, because even when the husband was still around, she was that way. So
She's just a control freak. I think that's what they were trying to.
Well, she was upset. Okay, you want to know why? Because she wanted, obviously, I think she wanted this perfect marriage and family, and then she had a daughter with a mental illness.
Yeah, yeah. God, that line that she gives her at the table, which she's like, "Sometimes I think I don't love you as much as I used to." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
that's
you can't
deep.
say that to a
that's
kid.
fucking
That kid's like
intense.
5 years old.
So
But-
I got a question.
Go
How does the father come out of the picture? Do they explain that?
He
in
just
film?
walks out. He
Yeah.
just leaves.
Yeah.
That was the last time he was ever seen.
yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I think we were supposed to believe as an audience for sure. But yeah, it was like they were fighting over. Again, the dad didn't think it was an issue her having an imaginary friend because he just thinks that's just part of child growth, and the mom just despised that idea, and she taped up the box, and he was just like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out."
I really wanted that to be more of a theme, especially in figuring out what the fuck was up with the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like finding out the dad
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think that. Well, going back to what I just said, I don't even think that would explain it because she was that way when the dad was around, and she was that way when the dad left. So
think
she's just always been that
I
way.
think she was that way because of her child.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
what she was dealing with her
Yes.
kid. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
awful.
Like she, I think, had a picture perfect ideal of what her family was supposed to be. This is just what I'm gathering. And then, she has a kid that is not all there.
Well,
And there's a reason for it because her mom's emotionally and I'm guessing physically abusive too. They don't really say that,
well,
but they kind of hint.
they show little tiny scenes of it, like when she's when they're at the dinner table and she's trimming up the rest of
her hair.
And she's like tugging and pulling at it, and the little girl's like "ow" and like wincing in actual like legit looking pain. So, like maybe that's not like it's not taking a belt to her, but I feel like that was like feel like that was the filmmaker's way of being like, well, here's another little piece of the shitty puzzle that is this woman.
I'm sure there was tons of abuse after Daddy left.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so.
The mom just had serious expectations, and
Yeah.
like she was like, "I just want to be a kid and have fun," and it was just suppressed, and which is the cause of having the imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Which later resurfaces when she's going through some emotional turmoil,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and then also has to go move back in with her mom, and that is again rehashed those feelings, and she never really deals with them, and that's what Fred's there for,
mm-hmm.
is to help her deal with those. in the most annoying way possibly that he can.
Yes.
The most, like you said, rambunctious way.
Yeah.
Rambunctious. That makes it sound like it's fun.
Archaic.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, dude, I was watching this, and I was like, I remembered it being fun. When Fred was on screen as a kid, I was like, oh, he's so funny, he's so fun. And then watching it, I'm like, no, stop! You're ruining your fucking life.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
what I thought the whole time.
Yeah.
I kept thinking that too. I was like, he's not doing anything to help. Like, he finally comes through eventually in some weird roundabout way.
Yeah, that
which is
doesn't
the
really make
last
sense.
basically like 5 minutes of the film, 5 or 10, 15 minutes of the film. But like, other than that, yeah, I feel like he's just creating more and more bullshit for her.
He's
He
like
is.
a reflection on. He's a reflection of her, I think.
Well,
though
he is her.
So it's very immature and childish, and then that character
know it.
has to learn to grow. Like Fred is growing at the same time that Phoebe's learning to not take bullshit. Right?
I don't feel
wanna
like Fred
talk
grew
about
at
that.
all.
I want to talk about
he does.
what Kyle just said, and I want to maybe
She is Fred.
no.
Oh, what do you mean no?
There's a moment in the movie, actually two moments in the movie that would kind of contradict that whole thing. And this is the part of the film that actually really kind of throws me off here, because as it stands, you think that, right? Yeah. Like when you're first watching the film, you're like, okay, so Fred is just a manifestation of her own psyche, and this is her acting out, and because everything that. So all the physical things that must be happening, the dog poop on the carpet and stuff like that, that has to be her throwing this shit, right?
Yes.
And her like dropping out of fucking consciousness and going into this Fred thing, right?
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
would what one would believe. But the scene that really throws it off is the waiting room scene where he's hanging out with the other imaginary friends, because she can't see them. She's not even remotely conscious of their existence.
Mm-hmm.
So it then turns the movie into
She can see him.
no,
all the
she
kids
no,
can
can't.
see him.
She can't.
she can't. None of the other kids can see Fred. Like they can only see their own, their own imaginary friend.
Yeah, when they cut to her point of view, you don't
Yeah.
see him in the frame.
And she says, "What are you doing? Who are you talking to?" And he goes, "I'm playing with my friends." Like,
Yeah.
and he's doing this whole thing. That there kind of shows that this is now crossed over from the psychological to the metaphysical to the magical. Like
don't
this
know
has
if I agree
become
with that.
fantasy.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, then the second one, Kyle, if I haven't convinced you yet,
though. Yeah, you haven't.
the second one is why does what's his name's what's the dude God that the lonely lovelorn friend.
I forgot his name.
I
don't
forget his name
fucking
too.
know.
But at the end,
Jimmy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
at the end, that little girl, his daughter, I'm assuming,
Yes.
takes Fred as her own imaginary friend, as if he transferred over to this other girl.
Right.
He did.
Right. And as I understand it, that's not her daughter, right?
No.
That's
No.
his daughter.
That's his
No.
daughter.
So there's no. I would understand. It would make a lot of sense if it was her daughter. Like years later, they have a child, and that daughter falls over. But that's not what happens. It's as if Fred is conscious, like has his own independent way of going from
Yeah.
childhood, like a genie.
Yeah,
And can
exactly.
just show up and be like, well, now I'm going to take care of this little girl.
Yeah, that's the
Like,
magic. It's
yeah.
like he's there to help you work through your shit eventually, and then he moves on when you don't need him anymore.
Yeah, he's there to stress you the fuck out
Yeah,
until you
but there's
can't
no
stand
way-
it anymore, and he
there-
disappears.
I mean, I feel like those two scenes were like, I don't know. I feel like they were shoehorned in there or something, because every other fucking scene in this movie, even the point where they're playing burglar and he cracks the glass and he's like, I love the sound of the breaking.
Right.
And like she does the same thing.
Right.
And like, so it's obviously her breaking the glass and doing all that
I'm not
shit.
disagreeing with you, because that's the part of the film that like to me was so interesting. But when those two scenes pop up, I'm like, wow, you're kind of breaking the rules of this world.
I'm gonna give you
Like,
another one that, in my opinion, that kind of does that too, and that's where she takes the houseboat for a joyride,
Okay.
because he's down there breaking the fucking engine, and she's obviously driving.
Yeah.
She couldn't have done both. She ain't that fast.
I mean, they showed her flipping switches. Maybe
She could have done it. She could have done both,
Bro,
because here's
how many
the
people
thing.
have worked on a boat here? How many people worked on
Here's
a boat
the
here?
thing.
Yeah, right. Totally.
Here's the thing. Here's the
one.
thing.
Me, that's right. That's
I
right.
was
right.
on a boat. I went to Alcatraz one time, and I was on that boat.
I was on a cruise ship.
So-
all those summer
I was on a
trips
cruise
to
ship. Thank you.
Lake Pleasant.
No, because in that scene, you don't see them together when he's breaking shit. It's either him breaking shit or her
Yeah, that's
driving
what
the
I'm
boat.
saying.
They're not together in one scene. So
Yeah.
it could very possibly be her doing both of those things, because they're never together when that shit's happening.
But they're together when all the other shit's happening.
I'm going off the that she's batshit fucking crazy, and she's doing all of this shit herself, and she's blaming it on her imaginary friend because she does have an imaginary friend who's telling her to do these things, and he is just the embodiment of her actions. That's the way that's where I'm going with it.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's either imaginary friends are real things that exist.
Agreed.
Or it was badly written. Poorly written, and they didn't realize that, like, oh well, I guess when we do this, we kind of break the rules of what we're trying to do here.
I think badly written. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I'm gonna go with that too.
I don't think it was badly written.
I don't know. I think Cody's point kind of might point that out because you're right. Like, how can she be down there and up there?
Yeah.
So if that's the case,
she's not even like really.
That breaks the rules of both worlds. Because if imaginary friends can't physically make any contact with physical things, then that breaks that too.
I mean, the sheer fact that we're talking about imaginary friends makes you have to have a suspension of disbelief a little bit. I don't think you could break this film down that hard. Like, well, this doesn't make sense if this doesn't make sense. It's like it's just telling a story about somebody who's going through something, and this is like the outlet for it. And maybe she always was going through it, but she like grew through that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's all I need to know.
That's the other problem I have is that it is in the last 5 minutes that she makes that.
She has that fugue state,
yeah,
and
because
then...
he's really not. In my eyes, at least, he's really not helping her until that last little bit when he's about to croak from the pills.
Yeah.
Like, everything else up to that is like, let's get you in trouble so that you get more stressed out and more freaked out until you basically hit a breaking point to where you snap out of this. That's how you fucking help people.
He only helps her when it comes down to like being he wants to save himself.
No, I don't agree with that.
What he was helping her when she beat the shit out of the violin player?
No, I think that Fred is supposed to be a very simple-minded, childlike, figure. But I don't think he's trying to save his own life when he tells her you got to leave your husband. I think he's really saying like, I care for you. I want you to leave your husband.
Exactly. I think it kind of starts here and there before what you guys are saying. Like it's a little longer of a stretch than just like the last 5 minutes.
10.
It's quite a. It goes on for a little bit. I would say probably
15.
About 15 minutes.
15. I got 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes.
15 minutes of a 3-hour film. Gotcha.
It's an hour and 30 minutes.
Get the fuck out of here. No, it's not.
It's an hour 40.
That felt like the longest hour 30.
Credits are 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was the longest hour 30 I've sat through.
I don't know, man. It's just, for me, like, going back and watching this again, like, kid eyes, thought it was hilarious. Adult eyes, I was like, this is a crazy subject to touch like this, too. And I will applaud the filmmaker at least, like, having the balls to tackle a subject like this and then also try to make a dark comedy out of it, which I feel like if they would have went a little darker, could have pulled it off better.
There's some weird shit that they talk about in it. They talk
totally.
about cutting people's heads off and like stabbing people with scissors and shit like
eating
that.
them, like, and I'll eat her body, and I'll eat her head.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That's stuff that you'll hear like any kid maybe say something stupid like that. But like, what's the thing with this
cobwebs?
No. When she's like chopping this like the salad or something like that. Like we could stab him with a knife or something. Like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff like that kind of like dips into the violence. Like the idea
which is, I think, the violence inside of her.
Yeah, the shaving scene too. Like, we could slit his throat with the thing. I'm like,
right.
whoa, motherfucker! Holy shit! I agree. Yeah.
That violence is coming from her frustration, not having the confidence to like have an outlet for it.
And that's why I love when he says in that scene, he's like, "You're not happy. Like I can tell you're not happy. Otherwise, why would I still be around?"
And now to go back to Kyle's point, like if this is a psychological thing, like why are the pills even hurting him then? If it's not that, unless the pill is some weird magical creatures are somehow affected by fucking.
It's like a numbing
pharmaceutical grade, antipsychotics. Like what are they like? I don't know.
Yeah, they said it cuts off that part of your brain that makes.
But
people
then
have that.
Then he's not magical. Then he is a manifestation of her mind.
Yes.
It's confusing.
It's very, very confusing.
I also think that was a social commentary about the time period, right? Because in the early 90s, that's when every kid had fucking ADD. They were giving them all pills. We're all going to the psychiatrist.
I was there.
I was there too.
Okay?
I was there too.
I know it.
I lived that life.
it.
I lived that life.
Oh shit.
You know, and like
Not
that
you,
was
Chris?
No.
Oh.
that was like a big thing then. You know, and I think that was kind of like the social commentary portion of
Yeah.
the film of like
I could see that for sure.
let
but
kids be kids and don't.
I can
'cause
see
they'll
that for
grow
sure.
up
But
to-
to Mike's point, it definitely doesn't make sense then for him to be a magical person if pills are destroying him, because then he is completely and totally in her head, and she's insane.
It's such a weird thing. And I guess we got to it. We can't get to it. I don't know. There's more stuff that I kind of want to dive in, but let's
go ahead.
Let's this thing go organic. Let's let it happen.
Let's go organic. Let's
Yeah,
get
what do
that
you wanna go
license
with, Kyle?
plate home.
Go
What do you guys think? Do you think this is a cult film, or do you what makes it a cult film?
Me personally, I don't necessarily think it is. I just think it's one of those movies that's the memory of it is really powerful. As from like seeing it as a child, but like I don't feel like there's a lot of people that are like, you know, having Drop Dead Fred movie watching nights. Like, but then again, I don't know. I don't know, but I personally don't think it necessarily is.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Sure.
Why do you think it's such a nostalgic movie for people then?
Probably because of how wacky it was at the time. It's memorable. It's definitely a memorable movie, whether you want to remember it or not.
I think it's something that attracted. I think it is like what we all why we all kind of remember this film is because we were all kids when we saw it, and that kind of shit like attracts kids. Like The Mask is like that too. Like people remember The Mask. Oh yeah, I saw The Mask in theaters. It was so crazy.
I will
like,
never forget Cameron Diaz in The Mask.
Yeah,
never.
Very.
I think that has something to do with like our age. Maybe it has something to do with like our age group, because when we were kids, this was the movie that was in theaters, and like all the. Like, it doesn't matter how many, like, older films you've seen and stuff, the ones that you saw as a kid left, like, probably the most impression on you, and you remembered because it was an experience that you got to, like, be a part of.
Chris, do you think it's maybe because he dressed like Steve from Blue's Clues?
Yeah.
No,
Actually, I do believe that has something to do with it. You know, his look, his character, how wacky he was. But the reason I want to say it's maybe not a cult film is because I don't know if you could show this to like a 13-year-old or a 10-year-old today and they would love this movie. Like, I don't know if that legacy would carry on of the film. Maybe it's just like a 90s kid thing.
Yeah.
It's
There's
I
like
don't know.
There's like
I'm
a
just-
very narrow slice of time that you have to be alive to appreciate.
okay, I'll put it this way. There are certain films that I feel, particularly in the 90s, that really layered on like the 90s themes of like big loud colors and wackiness and like let's do these big animated intros for the, you know, like those are like common themes that you saw a lot in the 90s, and this film did a lot of it. Like Weekend at Bernie's and Weekend at Bernie's 2, Even Birdier. I don't know what they called the
Even Bernier.
I don't know what they called it. But those films, like, I don't know that Weekend at Bernie's are like really cult films. It's just one of those things where you say, "Hey, remember Weekend at Bernie's?" Like, yeah, I remember that era. Of film.
I feel like that's more of a cult film than this one is.
I do too, but I also wouldn't call that a cult film. So I definitely am not calling this one.
All right.
I would have to agree with. I don't know if Chris said it was a cult film or not, but I'm going to go with.
He said no.
Okay. Yeah, then I agree with no. I actually don't feel like this is a cult film. I think this is
And
one
you
of the.
picked it.
I know. Well, because it's one of those things like where it's like, yeah, no, people like this movie. People really like this movie, and then you go back and watch it, and you're like, do people really watch? Did people really like still?
People
watch
don't
this
revisit
movie?
their childhood
Do they
stuff that
revisit
often.
this movie? And I wonder that, and I question that. And I'm glad we can bring it up on this podcast to make other people go like, yeah, and you should go back and watch this and see if I still think
It's
like,
been a couple decades.
Yeah, it's as good as when I was a kid, because for me, like, not to give my rating away, but I mean, I was kind of like in a weird place with this movie.
I'm kind of.
It really put you in a mood.
I'm
It
kind of
did.
in like an undecided spot on how I felt about this film too. Like it was just like I didn't know how to take it. Like I wish we had video for our podcast so people can see the face, but I'm going to show the guys in the room the face I was making while watching it.
Yeah, yeah. This like weird,
wide-eyed?
Yeah, this weird stare.
It wasn't even wide-eyed. It was just kind of like all the muscles in my face just kind of settled and it was just like, all right, 2 hours in, or sorry, hour 30. Felt
Two
like
hours,
two.
my
felt,
ass.
Felt like 2.
And here's another question too, because I feel like this is something that they try to pull off, and I don't think they necessarily. It's hard for me to fucking figure it out now.
What?
Did they make? And here's the question part of it. I mean, did they attempt, or did they make child abuse either mentally or physically funny? Like, was that their attempt? Was that was that
I still-
the dark comedy part of it?
No, I don't. Okay, it's hard for me not to say it's a little bit about child abuse. I don't think that was the focus. I think the focus is really about adult instability that stems from
From your childhood.
yes. I think they're making that connection, to be sure. I don't think, like, I kind of disagree that there's any real.
There's mental abuse. There's her mom
Yes,
is
there's
100%.
absolutely
But
mental
also,
abuse.
they kind of play it off more like, not like, kind of like that the mother didn't do it consciously. Like, she wasn't trying to be malicious. In a very strange way, she thought that she was doing the best for her daughter.
No, because they
ending.
specifically she specifically calls out in the ending that like once mom found out how to hurt me, she would do it all the time, and that is a malicious act.
It is, but sometimes, like, when you live with someone for so long, I feel like that's what everybody has, or maybe not everybody.
No, I think
but
that's
a lot of
that's a
people have a
controlling thing.
family dynamics where there is one person has the ability to control another person, and they're not necessarily doing it purposely. They're just doing it because maybe they're even frightened of something. Like, the controlling mother idea is also based in the idea that they don't want the daughter to leave. Like, if I can keep her here and I can control her, that she's mine and I don't have to let her go.
Which is a malicious thought,
That-
though.
It is, but it's also, it stems from like
Love.
Yeah, from love, and it also it does a little bit. It stems from a little bit from love, but it also stems a little bit from fear of being alone, because that's something that she says
Right.
in this film, is that
I'm
she's
afraid to
just
be alone.
I'm afraid to be alone, and I got that from the mother, because, and this is why I really wanted to see what fucking happened with the dad, because it felt like maybe the mother either blamed the daughter a little bit for the father
Oh,
leaving,
she does blame her.
right, and also that now who am I stuck with?
The mom does make comments to Elizabeth about with like her own marriage, and she's obviously trying to control Elizabeth's marriage and her and Charles getting back together, because she's like, she tells Elizabeth, obviously you don't know how to keep a marriage together, where she's like, bitch, you don't either.
Yeah.
You know? So, but that's, to me, is like what kind of stood out for me, and I don't know, maybe it did for Kyle too, where I had the Kyle face, we'll call it, of was, as I'm watching it, all that was sticking out to me, maybe it's because I have a kid, was like the mentally abusive aspect of it, and it was really hard for me to get past that and enjoy the film, because I was just like, if like this, like, they're lucky this girl didn't go on a rampage.
Yeah, I think my main critique with this film is like everything we've said about how shitty Fred is, or how he's not. It doesn't seem like he's helping as much. Maybe he's creating more chaos or whatever. Elizabeth does have these several scenes throughout the film where it seems like she's really starting to like come to terms with reality and start to cope and go through like the phases of like, you know, grief and whatever. And he pops in and just starts doing wacky shit and kind of distracting her again. And like, my main gripe is like, I feel like that for the first time, there's a movie that is just too wacky. It was too, I feel like they tried too hard to make it too wacky, and they missed out on like what I think was like some great character development that could have happened earlier in the film and like built up to the ending, instead of just being hit with this this disconnected from reality kind of like flashback, whatever the hell that she has that like buttons up the film at the end.
They were selling the wackiness before the storytelling.
Yeah, and I thought there was something real deep, real fucking human there.
Well, do you guys have any favorite characters?
Yeah, Shining Star, Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Thank you. I was waiting for it.
No, she was fantastic in this movie. That whole scene where she comes into the office and where Elizabeth comes into her office and calls her out and tells her that her house sank.
Yes.
And she like goes in and gets the chair because she thinks Fred's sitting in it and brings it back out and starts beating it and like punching the air. And everybody comes out to see. That performance is incredible.
It is.
I love it.
I loved it too. That's probably my favorite scene. That literally is probably my favorite scene. That and when she's fucking speed walking and smoking a cigarette.
Oh, I was gonna say that. You took it from me.
So good.
So fucking funny.
All the zeros on the check.
Every time she's on screen, I'm not
except for the first scene when she's first on screen. That was like very 90s thing. Like, oh, I just took a class and they said, surround yourself with white light, and it's like I thought like that scene was like bad. That felt right off a script, but everything else she did was very, very like fun and energetic and like original.
I'll also say personally, I think Rick Mayall as Fred did a good job. I think his timing is fucking great in this movie.
I will.
I know you all feel. I get the sense of annoyance, but dude, his timing is great in this film.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. I actually do think that for what the character called for, he did it pretty well. And the ending, there is a brief moment where he really transfers from that wacky, crazy character to
Yeah, no, he's got like a nice dramatic.
Yeah,
moment
he had a
for
real
him.
good presence there until
yeah, I know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Why did she have to kiss him?
What was up with that?
Why did she have to kiss him?
A little open mouth good thing going on there.
Why did that have to happen?
I don't know.
For us to
Why
me
that
to go away,
happens.
you have to go down on me. I don't make up the rules.
It really was. It was this fucking weird. Did anybody else feel creeped out? There is a really weird layer of sexual connection between
I feel like
those two.
when I was watching that scene again, I showed you guys the face I was making, and when that scene happened, I think I went, okay,
yeah, and scene. Like, did anybody else feel that way?
I was annoyed with him throughout most of the film, and I
didn't find the kiss.
No,
strange?
the kiss scene.
The kiss specifically.
I didn't even think twice about it. Honestly,
it's an open mouth kiss.
Yeah, but to me, it's
They're
like
going steady.
No,
it was
to
an
me,
open
to me,
mouth
to me,
kiss.
I just found it strange because this is somebody that has been in her life since she was a 5-year-old child, and had. I don't know. It's just
like
weird.
Christopher Lambert and his assistant.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Got a real Christopher Lambert and assistant feel to it.
Yeah,
sure did.
He Highlandered the fuck out of her.
Yeah.
I just don't. Yeah, it is weird because she could have kissed him on the cheek. It could have been
I thought it was
innocent
be a
childish
cheek
thing,
kiss.
and it is like an open mouth go for a little bit and like a little pullback.
Probably in
Some
his
pullback.
contract. Probably in his contract.
I get to kiss open mouth Phoebe Cates.
But no, he's a solid actor.
I don't know. I feel like it was. I think he played the character what they wanted him to play it as. I honestly think that. But at the same time, again, here's adult Cody watching this movie, and I'm so fucking annoyed with his character because, again, all he's doing is literally destroying her life even more.
Yeah.
That I'm like, I'm bad at you, bro.
Well,
I'm fucking mad. I want you to go away. Take the last fucking pill. Take it.
That's how Phoebe felt. That's how she got to that point.
And I don't know. It's just there's just something about that character too. I don't know that I just didn't.
Yeah, the initial. I don't know. Maybe I know that's just what they were going for, but the first time you see him on screen, I instantly was like, "Fuck me."
He's like clown
Come
funny.
on.
He's like clown funny. You know what I mean? Like honk honk. Like
where's the dolls? And he's just like going. Like,
I'm gonna rip his head off. Ah!
I'm just like, God, you trying really
he
hard,
actually
bro.
has like a pretty legitimate history, I guess, as a British comedian.
I looked at his IMDb. It's
Yeah.
a long list.
Yeah,
of shit.
I guess he's kind of somewhat of a legend.
He's in like The Young Ones, which is like a British TV show.
Yeah, he's like in some, and he's also in some kind of very political, I think like a political commentary comedy or
Guys,
something like that.
I'm not saying that he personally, I'm not going after him personally.
No, I understand.
I'm saying the character that he played
was annoying.
I agree, but I also think that like The Mask is an annoying movie in the same way. Like,
oh, I agree. Jim Carrey's a fucking annoying.
and it's not
in
a
that movie.
horrible film. It's just the way, like, if you watch it too many times, it's just like, Jesus Christ. Alrighty then, we get it. Alrighty then, okay. Or fucking smoking, we get it.
That's,
yeah,
I was gonna say that's not.
that's what I meant to say.
not
I meant to say
No,
smoking.
that's not The Mask.
It's all together. It's all together for me.
You know that movie where he's wearing the green mask, he's fixing people's cable, and he keeps going, "Alrighty then."
Oh, Truman Show. Yeah. I know that movie.
yeah, that's the one. Thank
Love
you.
it. Love that film. Love it.
But it's like, how many times
Right,
can he?
riddles.
How many times can he look under a dress? How many times can he make a fucking pie out of something disgusting? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just
How many times did that happen?
like 4 times.
Twice with the looking under the
Yeah.
dress thing.
I thought it was more than that. I feel like it was
2
more.
mud
Twice.
pies for sure.
There's a
What was
pants
the
pie.
when was
there's
the first
the mud
incident?
pie.
The first one was on the kitchen table. The second one was the one that she makes for him or
Yeah.
her husband.
Well, that wasn't Fred. He didn't make that.
Yeah,
Well, he made it, but you don't
Oh
see
my
him making
God,
it.
Here he goes.
And also, that was when she was a child. It's harkening back to her childhood, right? It's the connection between the same shit that's happening in her
The
adult
fact-
life.
looking
as
under
her
the dress
adult
thing
you know
is
what?
not-
We brought up a great scene. You brought up a great point. The mud pie at the end. She doesn't even know it's a mud pie until she sees
She doesn't.
it.
She opens it up.
So obviously she's fucking batshit crazy, and she's doing this shit.
or he's a magical fucking creature
Which
that
I
did
don't
it on
believe.
his own.
I don't believe that.
Again, I think they they just couldn't. I don't think they could figure out what kind of movie they wanted to make.
The mom was fantastic in this movie too. I got to give her props because she makes herself easy to dislike.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like she plays that character fucking
Can
perfectly.
we pick like? Did we already talk about people we disliked?
in the movie?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't
Shoot
think
it
I
out.
was just gonna pick. I was actually gonna call out that like that friend, that weird lonely friend she runs
The
into.
one with the earring.
Yeah, with the one with the one earring. Like I just did not like that guy at all.
the love interest.
Yeah, I thought he was. I
What's
thought
his name? He's in like everything.
I don't know.
He is in nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. No, he's a very
He is a big fucking nothing.
Ron Eldard
Oh, Ron Eldard. We all
Ron
know
Eldard.
the Ron Eldard
from
from Lord of the Rings and fucking everything else.
let's see, films that you definitely would know: Ghost Ship,
He's been in tons of shit.
Sleepers, Super 8, House of Sand and Fog, Black Hawk Down, Deep Impact.
This guy's had a career.
This
All
guy's done a
right.
shit ton of stuff.
Well, from humble beginnings, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, humble beginnings like House of Sand and
And
Fog.
I will say this: Phoebe
Black Hawk
Cates. Phoebe Cates is fantastic. in
Oh
this
my
movie, too.
god,
She is.
I love
She's
her.
she's really good.
I've always liked Phoebe Cates.
She's really good in this movie.
I think she does comedy really well.
She
Like-
does. She has a very
Dry.
Yeah, it's dry and more like realistic. It's not so slapsticky, but like I mean, think about it when the whole dinner scene where her and her friend are sitting there eating and like Fred's controlling her arm and spilling the water all over the place and then throwing the shit. Like when it cut to scenes of her just doing those motions without him there, it was super convincing. I felt like and hilarious at the same time. Like her face was just steady while her body was doing these uncontrollable acts. I thought it was great.
No, she's fantastic. I'm a big fan of hers. Wish she wouldn't have retired after this movie.
she didn't.
Didn't she though? Didn't she?
She had Princess Caribou after.
She had Princess Caribou, goddammit.
Princess
Nobody talks shit about Princess Caribou.
All right, guys.
Except Princess Caribou.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about Drop Dead Fred.
Oh, my head! The mega bitch squashed my head! The bitch! She squashed my head! The evil one reigns supreme! Cobwebs.
You guys, we're back. We are talking about Drop Dead Fred. I wanted to get in some of the technical stuff, and I think the scene that you can most talk about the technical aspect of it is the end scene where they kind of go into her psyche and they're back at the Nightmare on Elm Street house.
Fuck yes. I am so glad you
Yeah,
said the
me
same thing
too.
because I thought the exact same thing. I thought I was going to hear the song.
It looked just like the little
1, 2.
dollhouse from the third film.
Yeah.
It did. It
really did.
And then they go inside of it, and fake Tim Burton explodes.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they wanted Tim Burton to direct this movie originally, so I think
Really?
I think they were
That's
going.
a fact?
Yeah, it's a fact.
Holy shit.
He got offered to direct this, and Robin Williams got offered the role of Fred.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep, we could have had a better movie.
But I liked it.
Could have had a legit cult film on our
that
hands.
set, honestly. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it was simple.
It was definitely it was cool because it came out of nowhere. It was like a reverse of her home reality, you know.
Mhm.
It was really strange, but I liked it.
It was strange, but like I was in that boat where like as soon as it hit, I was like, this is so a ripoff of Tim Burton. Like I instantly thought that. Like instantly.
I agree. Yeah, no, I definitely do.
And I was like, they're totally going for like a Tim Burton Beetlejuice vibe with this.
I could see that
at the end, and then they make out.
Yeah, they kind of make out.
She sets her mother on fire. Not real, but you know, in her mind, and then she gets to make out with Fred. It's like a dream come true for her.
I don't know. Like the technical aspects are kind of hard to talk about in this film.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is god awful.
Can't stand it. Cannot stand it.
It's I don't know what it is about that early 90s soundtracks where they were just like, I don't know. Even
And they
I don't know
opened
what
with
to
that
call
too.
it.
They opened. That was like the credits. So it was just like, oh, this whole movie, I'm gonna hear this, aren't I?
And you do.
Yeah, you certainly do. They fucking double down on that.
You know, cinematography is what it is. There's really
Standard.
nothing special there. Special effects, besides like when he gets sneezed on and
Well,
like
I think the best one was his head got smashed in the fridge.
that was cool fucking looking.
That was like
really
the only
cool
one, but
looking.
it looked a little bit more practical. The other ones,
that one was bright. It looked a lot like Dick Tracy.
I was gonna say it could be a character in that.
It looked
movie.
just like the character at the beginning of Dick Tracy. The big dude.
Oh, stretch neck, stretch neck, get out of here!
the
Watermelon face.
You're under arrest, stretch back.
bouncing around.
Stretch back.
When he would bounce around, it definitely looked dated.
It looked really cheesy.
But
Yeah,
it worked.
for the time.
I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, that's what I was trying. The whole time, like the smoke coming out of the ears, like the whole time, I'm trying to think. Like, well, I mean, I have to go back and watch The Mask to go back to it just to see if those effects hold up.
They do. They look better.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Okay. Curious about that.
They do. They look better than this movie.
Oh, I believe it. I can't imagine that they had the same budget.
I did want to talk about the end a little bit. Surprisingly, when the Fred transfers to the little girl, I got fucking teary-eyed.
What?
I got teary-eyed.
transfers to like the new little girl that comes in the picture.
Because Phoebe Cates understands obviously what she's going
Right.
through, and there's that connection there.
She's like,
and
I'm gonna take care of you.
she's not being like her mother, and I'm guessing like I see like how it was gonna play out. Like Phoebe Cates is gonna become her. She ain't got a fucking job, so she's gonna become her nanny because the nanny left, you know, and help this girl through her troubles. Is like where I saw it going, and I was just like, that's really touching. I don't know.
Also, a weird cock teasy move because I mean, like, what's going on with their relationship? Are they together or not at the end of this?
I think she does. She's opened up to.
She's going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
You think she's giving it a shot?
Yeah.
Giving it an old shot?
Yeah, you can give the old college try.
Oh, yeah. It's a weird ending. I don't understand what's going on. His character irritates me just for that very moment that he's just so.
Well, he's kind of got the same thing going on, right? He's obviously pent up, and he's like, "It's just so great that you can just do these crazy things. I just love it."
Yeah,
And
he has
like,
a really weird reaction to everything she does.
He loves it. He's
Like,
I love
totally,
that you're batshit crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
'cause
totally smitten.
He's been in love with her since he was like 5 years old.
Yeah, it's just,
So,
it's a really weird stretch for.
Sometimes
a character.
you just, who wants to live forever?
Oh,
You know?
man.
Who wants to love
I
forever?
think they wanted you,
Highlander,
They
huh?
wanted to give you that love interest there because the husband was such a fucking dick that you
I
know,
agree. I would have liked to have seen it manifest in some way, not just they're sitting on a fucking lawn.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the end is open for interpretation, and like I interpreted my own ending.
This whole
with
fucking
it, so.
movie is open for interpretation.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to rate this Mammer Jammer?
Yeah, what are we going to rate it? It's your
Boogers.
Boogs?
Boogers?
Yeah, boogers.
Bogeys? Okay.
All right, we can do boogers.
We're gonna rate it boogers
I
because
thought you were either going to go boogers or dog poo footprint.
I'm gonna go with boogers.
Okay.
brown footprint.
Let's
Mud pie.
start with Chris.
Okay, so I hadn't seen this in a while, and it was interesting to go back and put this on because as a child, I freaking loved this movie. I probably rented it 20 times from the video store, and you thought it was hilarious. Going back and watching it as an adult, I definitely saw more the dramatic elements to the film and like the deeper story. I just didn't remember that part as clearly. And I actually liked it, and honestly, I laughed a lot during this film. A lot of the scenes still got me. I know there's a bit of nostalgia there, but ultimately, like I still found this movie very entertaining, and I was afraid it wasn't going to hold up. But for me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I remember. Like for the most part, other than the deepness of the story, like this is the humor I remember. This is the character I remember. I even recognize some of these scenes, still. So for that, I can't give it too low of a score. I'm going to go with a 3. 3 boogers for Drop Dead Fred. And I will show this film to my kids, just because I would like to see how they, would react to it.
All right, next up is Kyle.
Well, to piggyback off of everything you said there, yeah, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and I did not find it entertaining, and it did not hold up the way that I thought it would. As an adult, I definitely saw and appreciated the more human story that was unfolding, the more personal, the more dramatic element to it, and it actually made me dislike the character Fred even more because I felt like he was too wacky and too wild and weird and ridiculous, and it actually got in the way of what I think potentially was a really great piece of like well-written drama that was kind of in the middle of this film. My advice to people out there is, you can revisit it again if you want to, but hold on to the memories you have of this film from your childhood. I'm going to give this, 1.5. 1.5 boogers.
1.5 boogers from Kyle. Mike is next. Mike.
Guys, this is not a good movie. Let me just say that, okay? It's not a good movie. But here's the thing about it. It has a great idea. Like, the concept of it is pretty ingenious. And when I was watching this film, the only thing I could think of was, man, if this was, like, written by Charlie Kaufman and, like, directed by Spike Jonze, this shit would win a fucking Oscar. Like, this deals with some deep-ass shit, and there's places it could have went that it just doesn't go far enough, or they don't really know what to do. It definitely feels like one of these films where maybe the writers and the director had a different vision of the idea of what was going on, and one wanted to go really dark, and maybe one was just like, no, it's a lighthearted fucking comedy. The problem is that it bleeds so much early 90s bullshit fucking themes that it kind of ruins the whole thing for it. But, I mean, if they had really went the route of imaginary friends as a manifestation of serious psychological disabilities that somebody might have, then I would have been like, holy shit, this is a great idea. They just don't actually bring it home. They touch on it, they just don't reel it in. For that reason, I would go with Kyle and say 1.5, but I think it actually does gain 1 extra star from me for just simply being an idea that just doesn't actually pan out. So I'm going to give it 2.5 stars, or boogers, or stars.
All right, I'll go next. It's my pick. I'm last. I will say that I definitely went into this film remembering it from my childhood as a really fun film. And then watching it as an adult, all I could focus on was the adult themes and like how her life was in chaos, and I'll say mental abuse because it's not so much physical abuse, and of a child, and that really brought me down. Really brought me down, and did not build me back up with Fred's wacky antics. I was more like, fuck you, Fred. Fuck you. Knock it off. Take the pill. Take the goddamn pill. And it's the music and Fred himself as a character, again, not the actor, as a character, just annoyed me. And there is something with the pacing. We didn't really touch on that, but I am kind of in Kyle's boat where I was just like, is this going to fucking end? Like, it just seems like it drags on. With that being said, I got to give it a solid 2. I think it's ambitious. I agree with you on that. I think it's ambitious, and I think there is a better film there. It's just not on film.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Where did you want it to go? Did you want it to go more the wacky, innocent route or more of the dark psychological comedy route?
I think it would have been better if it went either way.
Okay.
Honestly, it didn't know. It played the middle ground. I almost feel like it played too safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what killed it.
I agree with you. I think that was my biggest problem with this film. It could have went one way, it could have went the other way, but it chose to just be like, I don't know where we want to go.
Yeah, I feel like
this
it
way.
It played it too safe, and it didn't take a jump in either direction.
Yeah.
And that's what killed it for me. So 2 for me. All right, guys, so that is our show for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We do have shout-outs for people who do enjoy the show because they left us reviews on iTunes. We really appreciate that. Who's got the first one pulled up?
I've got one here.
Oh, Kyle has it. Kyle, who's that review from?
This is from Ex-Duchess Gummy Buns and another X at the end.
Okay.
Old Gummy Buns.
Old Gummy Buns says the title review is awesome, playful, and fun. They said, I'm still super new to this podcast, but I have gone through almost all previous episodes between the iTunes podcast app and the website.
That's important, the website. Don't forget about that. coldfilmandreview.com.
There is a website, and I thoroughly enjoy each episode. The banter and jokes are very well balanced in honest opinions and critiques. I like that each reviewer is asked of favorite characters, soundtracks, and what was favored as far as sets, lighting, cinematography, actors/actresses, etc. There's also a lot of times where the films are discussed about in ways that I had never initially perceived or picked up on, so it's like getting a new perspective to old-time favorites. I also enjoy the discussions of what makes these cult films exactly, and it's just about always agreed with by me. So far, my favorite movie reviewed is Big Trouble in Little China. My only honest complaint is that I wish these podcasts were at least 2 hours too fun.
Well, you ain't getting that, Buns. Buns, listen, we struggle to get a fucking half hour.
Listen here, Buns. Thank you very much, Gummy Buns, for that review.
No, for real, thank you, Gummy Buns. You're awesome. You are on our Instagram quite a bit.
He's giving us shout-outs on Instagram, too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, he liked our Halloween 3 episode as well.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it was very nice of you. Thank you very much,
I'm
Gummy Buns, a.k.a. Dr. Satan.
Okay.
I'm actually pretty
Facebook stalking this guy.
I mean, I'm glad he liked our second episode, third episode.
That is our second episode ever. Big Trouble in China.
When we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
Well, we had no idea. That was such an aimless
So
review.
thank you very much, Gummy Buns.
Still got it, guys.
We got one more. We got one more to read.
All right, guys. This is titled Fanrific, and there can only be a number one fan. All right. This is actually from a longtime supporter. I've seen him on Instagram before. It's John Le Renard or Jean Le Renard. I'm not
Sean?
John.
It's John.
John Le Renard.
John?
And he gave us 5 stars, which is fucking awesome. Thanks. And he writes, do you love young love? Do you like talking with your friends about films you love? Then listen and enjoy and subscribe. Not all the films are cult. But if family is cult, then cult is cult. This podcast is basically a modernized Mystery Science Theater 3000. That's cool.
Hey, man, that is high praise.
That is a great compliment.
High praise.
Better way to compliment the podcast has never been done. So subscribe and review. Rumor has it that they are finally going to do One True Love story about young love, Microwave Massacre. Are we going to do that, guys?
I think.
He's been asking for it
Honestly,
for a while, so I'm going to say yes.
Might
yes,
be time
we
to
are.
bring back a fan pick.
John, I'm speaking to you directly because I imagine he's probably listening to the show.
He's listening right now.
We did get your earlier requests. We had a hard time finding this film, but we found out that it's on Amazon.
Turns out.
Arrow just
Amazon.
put it out. Arrow just released it.
A tout hour of laughter, fun, and remembrance of gore. Love, John. P.S. Hail Satan. Fans, listen up. Join us. Join us.
That's so funny. One
Join
guy's
us.
named Dr. Satan, the other one saying Hail Satan.
Well, we got a lot of Satan lovers.
Yeah, a lot of Satanists.
Well,
a lot of Satanists.
Thank you, Dark Lord, for bringing us our fans tonight.
No, we really appreciate the review guys. So if you leave us a review, we will read them and we will give you a shout out. We really appreciate them. That's the show for tonight. Make sure you follow us on social media at cultfilm_review on Instagram and Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can follow Kyle.
That was actually pretty funny. You can follow me on Instagram at cultfilm_Kyle.
You can follow Chris.
Cultfilm_Chris on Instagram.
Yeah. And you can follow Mike
at Mike Salustio on Twitter.
And you can follow me at VHS Collect on Instagram.
Don't forget to go to www.cultfilmreview.com to check out all the past episodes because there's only 50 of them on iTunes.
Don't we have articles and shit up there too?
Yeah, well, there's some things there, Mike. There certainly is.
Hell yeah, brother.
This is weird.
So you can go check all that out there. And just remember, if you're going to join a cult, make sure they watch good movies. We'll see you next week.